things are to be used, not misused. And unfortunately, a lot of us have a tendency to misuse credit, and that's anywhere from a credit card to even having friends that think enough of us to give us credit. And another form of credit, I would say, would be loans when we borrow money from one another or something of the other. And one of the things in particular, when I talk about credit, I try to get people, everybody don't quite understand it, and not that I'm the smartest person in the world, and I had to learn a lot myself by mistakes that I was making. But I found and I began to ask questions about different things. And one of the things, credit, uh, when you get credit or you buy something on credit, you have to remember to focus on the time, if it's 9 months, 6 months, or a year, or whatever. The dates, you have to focus on paying on time. A lot of times, even another thing is using your credit. Some of us may have a $300 limit, some may have $1,000, or maybe even $10,000, $20,000. But just because you have those limits doesn't mean that you have to use all of that credit at one time or over a period of time. And most important, however much that you have or however you use it, or you choose to use your card, you have to take and remember to make sure that you pay it on time. If it's the first of the month, the 15th of the month, or whatever. And what I find myself doing is making sure that make sure that my bill get paid. If it's let's just use for an example the 15th. I try to make sure that between the 13th and the 14th that bill is paid. And I also try to make it a habit. If it's, let's just say the payment is $100, I try to make sure that I pay anywhere from $150 to $200, and I make sure that it's paid on time every time. And I've been blessed to be able to have quite a bit of credit, but and there are people are constantly creditors are constantly trying to give me promotions. And just because they're trying to give you promotion doesn't mean that you have to take them. And since 2015, I think I've been late on one of my cards one time. And that was because it wasn't that I didn't have it, it's just that it slipped my mind. But, and I called them and explained to them, and they told me I didn't have anything to worry about. But I was very aware and conscious and kind of worried about that because I wanted to make sure that I did things the way that they were supposed to be done and the way that I wanted it to be done. Because the last thing I wanted was anything to interfere with my credit, because there was a time when, in learning how to use credit or get credit, there was a time when I didn't have no credit. And I thought I was doing pretty good because I was trying to pay everything with cash. But I found out that when you're using cash, that it doesn't have a paper trail. And loaners like to see a paper trail. They like to see that you're making payments. They want to see that you're making those payments on time. And every now and then, I found out once that even though I was making overpayments, I was paying more than my balance was due. I was kind of exhausted, and I was using a little more credit than I should have been using, and I couldn't understand why my credit score wasn't going up. And what I found out that based upon credit debt to ratio, which means that what they was expecting you to do is use at least maybe a third or less on that and make those payments. Just because you got $1,000 doesn't mean that you have to not pay, but use 400 to $600 because that's over a third. And I called them and asked them what was the problem because my score seemed to be going down rather than going up. So I needed them to explain to me. So they told me based upon credit debt to your ratio that it was going up because I was. It was as if I was living off of the card instead of using it. Once again, like I say, they expect you to use it, not misuse it. So, learning that, I began to share that information with others and tell them. And just because people are making you and giving you those different options and offers, sometimes you get offered where I think it's to solidate. Sometimes it's good to solidate, and then sometimes it's not. So it all depends upon how much you owe. And then if you owe, you know, two, three, $4,000, and you get an offer to consolidate, and you realize that you may not be able to pay that bill off within the next 6 months to a year. So in some cases, it's best to consolidate because when you consolidate, you can pay off. It depends if you got, like I say, two, three, four, $5,000 worth of debt, and you consolidate that with offer, which they give you 1 year, but you have to make sure that you have to be careful when you do that because that 1 year, that's all they're giving you. If that bill is not paid within that 1 year, that interest rate goes back up to anywhere from 18 to 29%. And what they does is if you consolidate the two, three, four, $5,000, they may charge you something like 4%, 5% on that 5,000 that one time for that for you consolidating, and then your payments you don't have to worry about the interest, but you do have to pay the bill. So and you don't have no interest for that first year. So that first year and what you do, and they may send you a thing, and I call it catch 21 because, and what I mean by that, by saying that, they don't expect you to pay that bill off within the year. So they give you maybe a minimum of 50, maybe even $100, but they know you're not going to pay $5,000 off at $100 a month, and you owe $5,000 just by paying that. So what I do is make sure that I'm paying anywhere from three to four to maybe if I'm able to maybe even pay $500 some months. So and I look and I watches it and I pay close attention to that, and I do that because I want to make sure within that year that that bill is paid, and then it only costs me that 4% up front, and the bill is paid off. But during that time, you begin to get all different other kind of offers, and like I say, once again, we find ourselves taking advantage, or we think we're taking advantage, but what they are doing, they know that they throw the line out there, so they figure out of 10 people, they're gonna get two or three that's gonna consolidate again, and you done already consolidated, so you really don't need to. You're not paying interest on what you already owe, and then they give you an option to consolidate or to get cash, and 9 times out of 10, you know how we do. We got an option consolidate our cash. So we decide we want to get the cash. So we get the cash. Now we got two double things in, which makes it a little bit harder. In some cases, some of us can keep up with that. But once you get that cash and you consolidate that, you you got a consolidation over here and you got cash. So now you got two different bills you're trying to juggle and pay. In some cases, like I say, you have to make a pep decision. Make that decision where if I do this, how is it going to affect me? This is, and a lot of times we say it'll be good to me because I'll be able to do this and I'll be able to do that. But you got to remember, it may be good to you, but it may not be good for you. Because when I say good for you, it's going to cause you problems. So, and even credit, borrowing money from your friends, it's the same thing. Because, and I don't mean, you're going to interest in things, because some of us have friends that will loan us money and just expect us to just pay them that money back. So as long as we do that, but unfortunately, we have some friends that will borrow money from us and won't pay it back, or they won't pay it back on time, or they act like it's a problem when it come time to borrow it back. And so you can't afford to be taking your hard-earned money and loan it to people, especially when they won't pay back or pay you on time, or you gotta heckle and jekyll and worry them to death just to get your money. So that's not good. So I tell people, if you have friends and you're gonna loan money to, or they want to borrow money from you, first of all, make sure that the money that you're going to loan them, that you can afford to loan them, that it's not going to affect nothing. It's not going to affect your light bill, water bill, gas bill, your groceries, gas, for the car, or anything else you're doing. Make sure you can afford to loan them that money, and it's not going to cause any ruffles in the things that you have to do. Don't let it be a situation where if they don't pay you when they say they're going to pay you, that you're going to be having problems yourself. So make that decision even when you loaning money. So yourself. I had a creditor called just the other day and said, Mr. Beverly, I see that you have this much debt, and I see that you have a good credit history, and you pay your bills on time. How would you like for us to take that? How would you like to be able to not to pay any interest on the balance? So I looked at that and well, who wouldn't want to pay, not want to pay interest? If I could just pay that balance off dollar for dollar and not pay the interest, that would be fine. But first of all, I don't know you. Second of all, why would you want to do something like that for me when you don't know nothing about me? And the first thing they tell you, well, and me, I always tell them, well, I'm not interested. And then they ask you another question, well, why aren't you interested? And my thing is, first of all, it's none of your business. If I say I'm not interested, we really need to be getting off the phone right about now. And every now and then, I like to indulge in a conversation just to kind of see. And then they say, well, all we need is a little information. That should ring a bell. First of all, you don't know nothing about me. I don't know nothing about you. What do you need my information for? Think about that. Why do you need my information? Why are you so concerned about me? You don't know me, you don't know nothing about me, that you want to help me. You want to help me be able to pay the bills or pay the debt that I owe with no interest. We have to be careful for nothing. There's a lot of scams that's going on, and that person that you are talking to, it sounds good, paying the balance off and don't have to pay any interest. But I don't know nothing about you. So let's just say you choose to take a chance and you give them that information, your name, your address, social security, whatever they need to make this work for you. Now you done gave somebody that you don't even know all of your information. And then they talks about all the different scams and how people are buying houses and cars and doing open up, getting new credit cards and stuff. Well, you just helped them. So since you just helped them, I mean, what do you expect? So hopefully in sharing this information with you, I'd say it's something to encourage you, to give you something to think about. And thanks again for listening to John Beverly, the businessman with a conscience, here at the Kimalan Village, where each one reach one, each one teach one brick, one building, one block at a time. Thank you. And remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we show it by the things that we do. And that's even sharing information. Thank you. Have a great day.
John Beverly, the Candyman, the businessman with a conscience, on LICMC.net radio every Saturday at 3 p.m.